Yesterday, I attended a talk, and the title of the talk was Preparing for Uncertain Times. I didn't get much out of the talk because the speaker was an elderly gentleman who spoke with a slurred voice, monotonous as well, and with a thick accent. But one of the things that I am in complete agreement with him is that many of the problems faced by the world today is due to overpopulation. Now, one of the solutions he had proposed was abstinence, I think it's unrealistic to expect people to abstain from sex because sexual drive or libido, if you're coming from the Freudian school of psychology or psychoanalysis, is a primal force in human life. So it would be better or more effective to focus more on recreational sex as opposed to procreational sex. Now, procreational sex has been used by many groups of people for racial and religious reasons as a power structure tool. So, by having more adherents to that particular religion or more people of that particular ethnicity, they tend to gain more power compared to the rest of the population who may be diminishing in number. So I am not happy with procreational sex being used that way. In fact, if you look at the demographics of Malaysia, when we achieved independence, we were 55% Malays, 45% non-Malays. Of the 45, 35% were Chinese and 10% were Indians. And now the demographics have changed. It is easily at least 65% Malays and the non-Malays are 35% because the rural Malays have been encouraged not to use contraception. Although we have a family planning board, it's underfunded, under budgeted, and most people don't know what they do actually. They're, for all intents and purposes, defunct really. Or they concentrate on the non-Malay, non-Muslim population. It's unspoken UMNO policy to reduce the non-Malay population by encouraging them to emigrate, make life difficult for them, don't give them opportunities in work places or in GLCs and places like have you met any toll plaza operator who is not Malay, or a rapid KL bus driver who is not Malay? So they deny certain races job opportunities, education opportunities, don't give them scholarship, things like that. And it is as a way to encourage them to emigrate and seek their fortune elsewhere. So they want to change the demographics of the country as a power structure tool, so that they can become more dominant and bulldoze their way through. And if you look at Mahathir's regime, the first time he was prime minister for 22 years, he had basically reduced MCA and MIC to a one member of parliament parties, to both of the parties, and reduce them into insignificance so that he can bulldoze his way through. And in fact, the presence of MCA and MIC within the Barisan Nasional is just tokenism. They listen, but they don't take any advice. They just push through what they want to push through. They push through their own Ketuanan Melayu racial supremacist agenda. I'm not happy with it. I think it's very unfair and unjust and against natural justice. And I think if you pursue that, you will collect bad karma and it will come back to haunt you. So what lies for the future if overpopulation is a problem? Now, A good example of population control is China's one-child policy, which was started in 1979 and ended in 1986. No, 2015. It had a 36-year run, so basically half a generation. They had this one-child policy. And although there were some issues, like girls given up for adoption overseas or left to die so that they can have another child, and hopefully the second child would be a son, or, claiming two siblings to be twins when they were actually born more than a year apart, things like that. But generally speaking, I would say in terms of population reduction, China's one child policy was a resounding success. And look at where China is now. It is the world's second largest economy, and if the current projections or trajectory were to continue, it is likely to overtake the US by 2035 and become the world's largest economy. Now, how did the one-child policy help achieve this? It's basically to buy time so that they can build the infrastructure of the country without being overwhelmed by the large population. And I don't mean transport infrastructure. I mean the educational infrastructure, the economic infrastructure, build factories, schools, universities. And China, in terms of transport, has the world's largest network of high-speed railways, and US is nowhere in comparison, and even Europe is a small percentage of the total number of high-speed railway in the world. So now, by putting the brakes on the population for 35 years, China has reversed that policy, and you can have two children now. And even having two children is just to maintain the population, because you replace the parents, But the world population is now 8.1 and a bit billion people. When I was born, it was 2.7 billion people. So in my lifetime alone, the world population has tripled. And this has put enormous strain on the environment, okay? So it has led to natural resource depletion. Now, natural resource depletion, just take the example of tin. The tin industry was one of Malaysia's biggest money earners. And then when we ran out of tin, it's not even a sunset industry. It's gone. It's defunct. There's no more tin to speak of. Now, the tin that were mined in the Kinta Valley and the Klang Valley on the alluvial plain were eroded from the mountains, and it took millions of years for this tin ore to be eroded from the mountains, to be carried by the rivers and settle as sediment in the alluvial plains, okay? Millions of years, and within decades, we squandered the tin. We just took the tin out of the ground, and we'll have to wait a few more million years to get more tin. Okay, so it's gone. And the same with our oil. We've reached peak production years ago, and every year we have less and less oil production, and eventually we are going to run out of oil. And basically, whatever Petronas has taken out of the earth or below the sea, the government has squandered, unlike Norway, which has a sovereign fund, which is very well managed, using money that was gained from the sale of their petroleum industry. And they invest properly. They invest anywhere in the world that gives the best returns. They don't give to GLCs, which are run by cronies. Let's not get into this corruption thing. It's really horrible in Malaysia. I think we are one of the most corrupted countries in the world. Now, when you have a lot of people, you need infrastructure for them. You need houses for them to live in. You need to build schools, bridges, roads. So you actually have less and less natural environment. So there's habitat destruction, we call it. And habitat destruction leads to species extinction and loss of biodiversity. And the jokers in the Malaysian primary industry ministry say, oh, we cut down the forest, the natural rainforest, but we plant oil palm, so it's still considered forest. These people are so idiotic and stupid. When you plant an oil palm plantation, that's a monoculture. For every acre or every hectare, you have one species of plant. Now, the natural rainforest in Malaysia, 1 hectare has easily 200 species of trees. And in the coniferous forests of the temperate countries, you have basically per hectare 20 species. That is their natural biodiversity. And our natural biodiversity, no, I think it's more like 800, okay? And then you cut down all these 800 different species, get rid of them. You give to people, cronies who are timber miners. It's not logging, it's not forestry, it's timber mining, because you don't replace the timber. You clear cut the timber and you plant oil palm. And Brazil is doing the same mistake. And they don't grow oil palm, they grow grass so that they can have cattle ranchers. They intend to be the world's biggest beef producer. And they need to produce beef because there's a demand for beef, okay? So there's a demand for beef because the world population is growing. So one way you can help is to eat less meat and become vegetarian or vegan, or like me, whole food, plant-based. And instead of growing plants to feed animals to eat, you grow plants and eat the plants themselves. Now, people say eating vegetables or plants are boring. There are actually 80,000 species of edible plants, and most of you haven't even eaten 1% of these 80,000 species, okay? In fact, it's so hard to find people that eat 30 different species of plants a week, okay? Most people eat the same blood eating day after day, and that's why they find it boring. They just eat rice. You can't even find people who eat sweet corn nowadays. Is mostly rice or flour, okay, and maybe some oats for breakfast. But what about other edible things, edible plants? And then you don't only need to eat plants, you can also eat seaweed, which are algae, and fungi, which are mushrooms and toadstools and things. So there are actually lots of things you can eat besides animals. In fact, when you eat animals, you're not eating animals, you're eating their carcass. Basically, you makan bangkai lah. Okay, so whatever you want to say about, you drain the blood and all that, it's still a dead animal. You don't eat live animals. Unless you're Korean, you eat live, what they call squid or octopuses. Anyway, the big issue with animal flesh is the fact that one of the metabolites of animal protein metabolism is TMA, trimethyl aminase, okay, which crosses the gut blood barrier, goes to your liver, and your liver oxidizes it, and it becomes TMAO, trimethyl amine N oxide, okay, which is vicious stuff. It uses up all the antioxidants you eat in the body, and you don't have enough antioxidants for other things. Now, oxygen is a double-edged sword. You need it for combustion, or in the body it's called metabolism, but it also produces oxidation. In the body it's called oxidative stress and oxidative damage. It's basically the slow rusting of the body, and to prevent that, you need antioxidants. So for as long as you're breathing oxygen, you need antioxidants, and it's very, very difficult to overdose on antioxidants, okay? Because as soon as you take your next breath, you'll use up more antioxidants. So coming back to the world population problem, how I am looking for ideas here. Can we legally, ethically, and morally reduce the world population to, say, 100 million? We should set the target to 100 million because even if we miss it by a factor of 10, we get 1 billion people. That would be a comfortable number to survive for a while. In fact, the last time the world population was 1 billion was not that long ago, was in 1830. So between 1830 and today, we've put on 7 billion more people. The world is getting crowded, and people like Elon Musk have this stupid idea of colonizing Mars. Now, you have to understand that human life or life on Earth is very peculiar to the planet Earth. We are dependent on solar cycles, on seasonal cycles, on circadian rhythms, which is the daily cycles, okay? If you are familiar with Michael Rosbach's works, he was a Nobel laureate who won a Nobel Prize for discovering circadian cycles. In fact, he did his work on Drosophila fruit flies, and this work was further developed by other researchers, including Professor Sachidananda Panda of the Salk Institute in California. And he has developed ideas about the human circadian cycle and how sunlight, in particular the blue light component of 450 nanometers, is essential for the body to activate a whole family of super family of enzymes called CYP450, cytochrome 450. And whether we detect blue light of 415 nanometers through our eyes. Our eyes have a special photosensitive cell that acts as a switch to tell the hypothalamus whether blue light is present or not. Actually, it's a hypothalamus that acts as a switch. If it detects, if the eyes do not detect blue light, it automatically assumes it's nighttime, and it deactivates cytochrome 450. If you see blue light, it knows it's daytime, and it activates CYP450. And CY450 is important for metabolism. In fact, if you eat after dark without the presence of blue light, the brain assumes it's nighttime, and whatever you eat will not get metabolized. Instead, it'll automatically be shunted to a different metabolic pathway and stored as fat. So, if you think old folks, it's an old folks tale that if you eat at night, you'll get fat. It's not actually true. It is true, but not an old folks tale. There's actually valid scientific evidence to support that if you eat at night or after dark, you will get fat. Okay, so that's my rant for today. I implore you to come up with ideas, put them in the comments. What do you think would be the solution to reduce the world population to 100 million? Should we voluntarily have a one-child policy? Should we allow people to die and not spend resources keeping them artificially alive? Should we let epidemics or pandemics kill people? No need to vaccinate them, no need to take precautions, and plagues. The last time we had a Spanish flu, 1918, just after the First World War, because of public health issues caused by the war. We had, culling of humans there. In fact, there's so many people on this earth who are not pulling their weight, Many of them are uneducated, purposely so, because the rich elite keep them uneducated and stupid so they can be used as slaves. This is the postmodern slaves, stupid people. In fact, some of them are so stupid, I would consider them subhuman. You meet these goblots every day. I don't have to go into detail. You know who I'm talking about. Okay, it's unethical to kill people, but I'm looking for solutions. How can we ethically, morally, and legally reduce the world population to 100 million people? That is the challenge of our lifetime.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to show your support.